Hello and welcome to Letters Home, a story of a World War II B-17 pilot from Lowell, Michigan in his own words. And he just so happens to be my grandpa. I'm your host, Annie Whitlock, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, my dad, Mitch McMahon, my aunt, Lori McMahon Summerfield, and Dale Croft from the Lowell Historical Museum.
In each episode of Letters Home, we're going to dive into letters written by my dad during his time in World War II that he sent to his parents, siblings, and friends back home in Lowell, Michigan. We'll be reading his own words and giving some context as to what was happening in the world and at Lowell at the time he wrote these.
In this episode, Dad gets great news about his future, but is forced to wait for it, and World War II comes to an end.
Oh my goodness, that's right. We started this story with Bruce enlisting in the Air Corps very shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and today we're talking about the end of the war. We made it.
Yay.
All the way through.
Yeah.
All right. In our last episode, we talked about the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It still took a few days for Japan to surrender. So we're just going to kick things off with Dale. We need to learn more about the surrender, this end of the war. What history lesson do you have for us today?
Well, on August 1945, a big thing happened called the Twin Shocks. It was the final days of the war, led to two critical back-to-back developments that shattered the resolve of Japan's leaders, known as the Big Six. The Big Six were 6 members of Japan's Supreme Council for the Direction of the War, who were in power at the end of World War II. This small inner cabinet was responsible for making the final decisions on whether to accept the Allied surrender terms. The 6 members were Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of the Navy, Minister of the War, Chief of Army General Staff, and Chief of Navy General Staff. The first of the twin shocks was the U.S. dropping the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and on August 6th, and the second one on Nagasaki on August 9th. The scale of these new weapons' destruction was an immediate and profound shock to the Japanese leadership. The second one, which both of these we kind of talked about last week, on August 8th, the Soviet Union, having previously maintained neutrality with Japan, declared war and launched a surprise invasion of Japan's held Manchuria. This extinguished any hope of Japan had of negotiating a conditional peace through Soviet mediation. Faced with these twin shocks, the Supreme Council for the Direction of War remained deadlocked over the terms of the surrender. Emperor Hirohito intervened, breaking the council's tie and ordering his government to accept the Allies' terms laid out on the Potsdam Declaration. Now, the Potsdam Declaration was an ultimatum issued by the Allied powers on Japan on July 26, 1945, calling for the unconditional surrender of all Japanese armed forces. The warning concluded with this phrase: "The alternative for Japan is prompt and utter destruction."
Yeah.
A failed coup d'etat of military headliners who wanted to continue fighting took place in the early hours of August 15th, and the coup failed to prevent the surrender. Now, the Jewel Voice broadcast on August 15th, Hirohito's pre-recorded radio address known as Goku An Hoso was broadcast to the Japanese people. It was the first time the public had ever heard the emperor's voice. Without using the word surrender, he announced that Japan had accepted the Potsdam Declaration. On September 2nd, 1945, following the emperor's announcement, the formal surrender was signed and hostilities officially ceased. The ceremony took place aboard the battleship USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. Japanese Foreign Minister Mamoru Shichimiya signed on the behalf of the government, and General Hoshiro Omizio signed for the armed forces. I got him.
You got it.
General Douglas MacArthur, our Supreme Commander for the Allied powers, signed for the Allies. He was joined by representatives from the United States, China, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, Australia, Canada, France, the Netherlands, and New Zealand. After the formal surrender, Japan was placed under Allied military occupation, led by General Douglas MacArthur. Unlike Germany, which was divided, Japan was administered by U.S. forces with input from other Commonwealth countries. The occupation focused on demilitarizing the nation, dissolving its military, trying war criminals, and implementing sweeping democratic reforms. This included a new constitution that limited the emperor's power and officially renounced war. The occupation formally ended in 1952 with the Treaty of San Francisco came into effect, restoring Japan's sovereignty.
Wow.
So that kind of gives you a layout.
Yeah. This is all happening right around this August, September timeline.
Yeah.
Didn't know about the coup.
Yeah. I didn't know there was a coup, and
No.
it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first letter we're going to read today is one that Bruce wrote on August 21st, 1945. So this is after the announcement of surrender. And so, we'll just take it from here in his own words.
Tuesday night. Dear Mom and Dad, after such news as I've heard tonight, I must first of anyone write you a letter. You, who for the last 3 years have been both worried and been lonesome for me. You, Mother, whose chin quivering as I left for Grand Rapids will always remain indelibly printed on my mind. And you, Dad, trying to cover the way that you felt with both sorrow and pride in your manner. Well, why don't I get to the point? Well, the point is that little boy of yours who marched away those 3 years ago is just about set for his discharge. I ran in here tonight so that I could call Margaret, and the first person I saw was a sergeant from this office, and he stopped me and said, "Have you heard the news?" And I said, "No." And he said that classification has announced that all men who have enough points will be getting their orders for discharge within the next 10 days. As you know, I was lucky enough when I was commissioned to be commissioned reserve, so that will mean that I will be put on inactive service. Personnel and classification offices are closed tight to everyone for the next 3 days while they prepare the list that will be sent to Washington. Anytime after that, I should be able to tell you exactly when I will be getting out. I don't know whether you're familiar with the way that an officer is put on inactive service, so I'll try to explain. First, they check to see how much accrued leave you have coming. You get 30 days a year. And then they ask you if you want the money, dollars per day, or do you want to go on leave and pick your orders when you leave? Well, because I want to get that extra $100 a month for flying pay, I'll tell them that I want to take the leave. I'm pretty sure that I have around 60 days coming. That would mean I'd come home and probably go up to Canada for a while to visit Marg's folks, then come back home, and at the end of the time return here for my orders or possibly to some discharge center. I'll draw my same pay for those 60 days. On insurance, I'll have to see about getting this Army insurance transferred to civilian insurance, and then I'll have to state my choice as to the kind of inactive reserve I want to have. There are 3, but the one I want is the one that will keep you up on your flying, which states that out of each year you'll put in about 20 days of flying big stuff, and there are a lot of things to see about, but they're just a routine stuff. I'd like to write more, but right now I'm just a little too excited to do it. I tried to call Marg, but they're quoting a 3-hour delay. Must be a lot of fellows are calling home to tell the good news too. Well, I'll write tomorrow. If I hear anything new, just say a prayer that nothing slips up on this for me. So long for now, your loving and grateful son, Lucky 2, Bruce.
Oh, the big news. Bruce has been discharged from the Army. You can tell he's excited because this was a typed letter. And there were just a ton of spelling errors and like letters typed over the others. And I can just picture him trying to
hold it together.
Yeah, or like just trying to like get it out really fast. I don't know. That's what I was picturing him just, going to town on this. So that was kind of funny. And maybe he did fly, I guess, after the war because he wanted this inactive reserve that would allow him to keep up on his flying. I don't know if he got that type of reserve or not. We'll have to find out. But yeah. Well, now it's time to get into our segment where we talk about what was going on in the world and in Lowell in August and September 1945. And we already talked about the big news of the Japanese surrender, of course, giant news for the world. But I will say that the Ledger headline for the Kent County 4-H Fair was bigger than the headline for the war ending, I'll just say. I looked up, around the surrender time in the Ledger, and it was off to the left and big handwriting, but the right front center page was Kent County 4-H Fair, big success. So there we go.
Good.
Priorities, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to read a couple of letters from Bruce now where he's sort of planning his next move, right? He knows he's going to be discharged. He's just waiting around. He wants to see what he's going to do after. So this first one is a longer letter from August 29th, 1945, in his own words.
Wednesday. Dear Mother and Dad, just received your letter, and so I'll try right now to answer it, or I'll never do it. I've been bad about writing Marg lately because there's so much that I have to see about before getting out that it keeps me busy all day long. However, I think by this afternoon I'll have everything fixed so that all I have to do is just sit around and wait for the orders to come through from the separation center. Because I'm from Michigan, I think that they'll send me to Fort Sheridan in Chicago for my discharge. The word discharge isn't quite correct in my case. It should be my reversion to inactive duty, because I'll always be a reserve officer in the Air Corps and will be privileged to fly Army ships each year, and quite probably anything I want to field and ask for some time. I'm so sorry that you're having trouble with your feet, Mother. Are you sure that swelling doesn't come from your heart condition? I know that you're trying to take it easy, and that's one thing that being home will do for me, is to kind of let me keep track of you. Although I won't have those old arguments with you, because I think you finally decided that it's best to take it easy. Remember those go-rounds we had about you not going to bed and try to do it all without the aid of a doctor? I believe now that I'll drive to Fort Sheridan and then to home with the Chevy. I'll then go down and have Mac tune it up, and I'll pay him up $45 and then go up to Canada to visit Mark's folks. It's always been kind of bad that I could not end up there, and Mark has always wanted me to do it so badly. Well, this is the time to do it, and then I can get things straightened out and set to come back to Lowell and go to work on our future. I'm quite confident that I can make a success in business there for a number of reasons. Most of the businesses there are run by men who will be too old in a few years, and so I think that some of the new post-war blood won't hurt a bit. I also believe that there will be a post-war period of prosperity that should help me get me firmly on my feet, no matter what business I go into. I have a letter right now in my pocket that states I'm qualified for a job with the civil service that deals with airline communications after the war. I meet all the requirements and more for the job, and it pays very well. However, the main drawback is that it would mean traveling, and I don't want to do that the rest of my life. Again, like you, I know that amount of money you make doesn't regulate the amount of happiness and contentment that you'll have in your life. Well, Dad, it looks like by the time I'm home, they'll have that little old Aranca licked, and will be flying around without a qualm. First off, I want to go up with you and pass judgment on you. A son passing judgment on a father, such as you. Well, I mean on your flying, because I think that's the only category that I'll ever excel you in. And it's only because I started before you. I'm pretty confident that in a year after this time, we'll be able to get a ship quite cheaply, and so we'll have a chance to fly. Marga's always wanted to learn, but she said that she wouldn't until I could be the one to teach her the art to her. Well, I opened your letter here in the office this morning. I told the fellows around here that even before I tore it open, that there would be $2 in it. Sure enough, there it was, and so I had to tell them that ever since that first letter I received from you when I was in cadet in Santa Ana, that there was always been those same $2 there. Because these are probably the last I'll receive before my discharge, they all said that I should frame them. I think that's a good idea. Though I never for a second needed anything to remind me of your great love for me, so that kind of symbolizes it for me. And so I'm going to keep these last two, so that when I'm raising my children, they will always serve to remind me they've got to try and be the best, to be at least half as good a dad as you have been to all of us. Several times I've had people around here who knew that the combat was like, and when I was over there, and they say I was lucky to come back, and I always say that there was a little matter of my father going to church every morning and praying that I came back. That was the reason for my return. Major Braun just came in and said that it might be a matter of 2 or 3 weeks yet until we receive our orders for separation centers. Seems they're letting the enlisted men go first, which is always the ways it's done in the Army, like an officer never eating in the field until he's sure that all of his men have eaten first. Oh well, I can hold out now if I've been able to for darn near 4 years. I'll get this in the post office now. One of these fine September days, you're going to see a little green coupe drive into your drive, and it'll be home for good. Not counting the trip I make up to St. Helier. Might find time this fall to furnish you with plenty of pheasant and duck. I bet you. Your loving son, Bruce.
Aww. So it's interesting. This letter says that Bruce could have had a job, perhaps as like a commercial pilot or an air traffic controller, but he didn't want to travel. Did he ever talk about that growing up as a, possible different side career for him?
No, I knew he didn't want that. I just knew that.
No, I don't remember him talking about it even really. But
Yeah.
I don't remember why I know that, but I kind of have that, and I think I have a $2 bill too.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So, do you?
I'll have to get it.
Do you think he framed any of those?
I don't have it framed, but I have it. I have it.
Well, did he get sent 2 $1 bills or 1 $2 bill?
I thought it would be $2 in it. Did they have the $2 bill then?
Oh, maybe not. Oh, okay. I
don't
know.
know. We got something to look up. Because I always assumed it was 2 $1 bills.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, all righty. Well, maybe that's.
But I don't
what it
know.
is.
Maybe not. But
And
then
I
it
don't
talks
think
about
he had it
framing
framed.
it.
I don't. I've never seen $2. Maybe if I saw it, I probably would have taken him down and spent it. Probably.
As a kid, you're like looking for some, you
Yeah.
know, allowance money, and you're like, oh, why are these behind a frame? That would have been funny.
gosh.
Yeah, they're maybe long gone. Maybe we need to just start searching your basement some more, Hannah,
Again.
or your
again,
attic.
Yeah.
What I
Find a
really
frame.
feel bad about is Dad brought all those maps home,
Oh, right.
and you know, I got into them and plastered them all up on the basement wall. I thought Dad'd be really pleased. He was not. And of course, then you know we played ping pong down there, and they got ripped, and it was.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
So many historical artifacts that never were,
Yeah,
huh? All right. Well, this next letter is from a couple of days later, September 1st, 1945. Bruce has now more information about his discharge, and he is pretty bummed about it, in his own words.
Saturday afternoon. Dear Mom and Dad, well, some bad news came through this morning, and I've already written Marg about it. I've been declared essential for another 6 weeks, so I won't be up for discharge until the 15th of October. They had a meeting over in the theater this morning and read off the names of those that were classified as essential, and mine was on it. Now that they have promised us that, we'll be discharged by the 15th, so I guess that I can get along. The bad part of it is that I've been waiting here, sort of holding my breath for the orders from the separation center to come through, and then to have them to tell you that you've taken off the list and you won't get out for another 6 weeks is just a bit rough. Not that I can't take it, but I'd planned on so much being home in about another week. They told us that there are going to be a lot of ships that have to be ferried to the RFC for the disposal, and that for that reason we'll have to stay on the job. I might take a few more trips just to help out on all the equipment that they have to ferry and thereby speed up my own discharge. This only pertains to the ATC and not the Air Corps or ground forces who will get their discharges if they have the points. Most of us fellows who are essential are high point men, and there was quite the storm of protest from all of those on the list when they said that we would have to get this job done first. It does seem a bit unfair when you think that the highest pointed men will be on those who will have to see that all the equipment from the P-51s to the P-32s is brought back for salvage or storage.
All right, we'll pause this letter here for a minute. How disappointing. My heart broke when I read this. Just how disappointing for Bruce to be waiting this whole time and then to be like, nope, you have another 6 weeks to go. So this is September 1st, and they're saying October 15th.
Yeah, the green coupe didn't make it in September. We know that.
No, it's
Right.
such a bummer. He does reveal a little tiny bit about the process of his discharge. But Dale, what else can you tell us about this whole process of demobilization from the war?
Well, the big thing about it was they went through a point system, which he talked about, which was called the Adjusted Service Rating Score, which decided which soldiers would be sent home first based on their service record. A soldier's score was calculated based on several factors. Months of service, they got 1 point for each month. Months of overseas service, an additional point for each month overseas. Decorations and awards, they got 5 points for each battle star or decoration.
Wow.
And dependent children, 12 points for each dependent child, up to a maximum of 3. I don't know if Marty
I mean,
would have counted or not.
she's freshly born. I don't know if that counts. I mean, I would think.
Yeah,
After the war, the troops with high enough scores, initially 85 points, were sent home via Operation Magic Carpet program. This massive transportation effort used everything from battleships to aircraft carriers to rapidly ferry millions of troops home. And one little side note, which I thought was kind of funny, to help get more soldiers on, Queen Mary and all those, they called a hot bunking. To increase the speed, they called hot bunking, which was used where soldiers slept in shifts in crowded bunks. So they took turns shifting while standing so you could get more soldiers on the boat so they could get home.
Oh,
They called it hot bunking.
Oh, my goodness.
I got to put that in. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
The high volume of troops and constant changes to the point system, which ended up going down to 50 points, led to soldier dissatisfaction and frustration. And the overall demobilization process involved bringing the military size from 12.2 million to 1.5 million personnel by 1947. So think of that's
a while.
all these, from 12 million to 1.5 in 2 years.
Wow.
Upon returning to the U.S., soldiers would go through a multi-day final out processing, which includes comprehensive medical and administrative screenings, mandatory transition assistance briefings, and the final clearing of their unit and installation before being fully discharged. Soldiers were allowed to keep personal items, their basic uniforms, boots, and socks. They were not allowed to keep military-issued weapons or specialized equipment, which are government property that must be turned in. While rare and subject to strict regulations, there were expectations for certain captured weapons or war trophies, provided they were rendered unserviceable and officially approved. To assist with the reentry into the civilian life, the U.S. government provided the GI Bill, which we talked about earlier. This package of benefits included low-cost home loans, unemployment assistance, and funds for college tuition or vocational training when they got back home. So, a point system on their adjusted service rating score.
Huh. So and he was saying in his letter, like a lot of the guys that were meant to stay, we actually had quite a bit of points.
Yeah.
They were determined essential, so that's why they're mad about
essential,
it.
Which, Bruce had 85 points, but he was essential.
Yeah.
Because he handled a lot of the ferrying of the place where they scrapped him into metal and that we talked about in earlier episodes. So
and because he's needed.
It would be interesting to find out, though, if Marty was worth 12. He got 12 points for Marty.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on dependents. So they're just going to take your word for it, or do you need to file taxes or whatever?
To show a birth certificate or something? I don't know.
Show a birth certificate?
Interesting.
That is interesting. Well, let's keep going with this letter, which references some Lowell happenings in his own words.
I want you to tell Ed about it so that he'll know we can't have our talk first. I got thinking the other day about Byrne and his new enterprise, and that he might have thought it strange that I didn't ask him to go into it with him. But I think that I'm right when I say that I thought he wanted to go it alone. Except for the time he mentioned my taking over the radio end of it, he has never said anything, and so I suppose that he doesn't figure that it'll be large enough to support two families. This is all probably unnecessary because he's probably never entertained the idea of my going in with him. All that I'm looking for is a business that will give me a living if I go at it with all I have, and I think I can make a good one in Lowell because I'm well known and generally well liked. No matter what business you're in, if you have already sold yourself, you have half the battle won. That I'll go into business no matter how, and so it's only a matter of finding a business that will have the market for me to make money in. I certainly won't be afraid of competition in Lowell no matter what I sell, because aside from the fact that I'm known there, I intend to go at it with plenty of get. I've had those 3 years in the oil station, which taught me a lot about getting along with the public and also on credit lending, 2 points that are necessary if you're going to make a success of anything. Well, this is only going to be a note to tell you that you'll have to hold up the fatted calf for a few weeks. I expect that Marg will probably stay in Canada, but I'm not sure, and if she decides different, I'll let you know. She spoke of renting Ann Ross' house if we decide to stay in Lowell, but that was only an idea. I think I'll try to call you tonight. I've tried twice before now, but there's always been at least a 3-hour delay, so I've canceled them. Take care of yourselves, and it won't seem long, these extra 6 weeks. Your loving son, Bruce.
Aww. Well, I think we have a hint, though, about Byrne's subterfuge endeavor from a few weeks back. I don't know why, still know why it was called subterfuge, but it seems like Byrne is starting a business in Lowell.
Well, maybe he didn't want that to get out there so that another business would start up.
Maybe,
or maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe
he didn't want to know he's leaving his job at Root Lowell or the sprayer company, or if he was, I don't know. So yeah, seems like Byrne's starting a business, and I know we've talked about this before, but I still don't really understand. So Grandpa ran a gas station in Lowell?
Yeah.
It was must have been before the war.
Right across from
where the museum is. It's right on the corner, right there where the
gas station is now. So
and where Frank's, the McMahon house was moved.
Yeah.
That corner where there was the Frank, I think. Yeah.
So did he own an oil station like in his early 20s? He owned a gas station in his 20s or ran it?
Owned it, or leased it or whatever, but
he said he did it for 3 years.
Him and Jack Lally,
The timeline of his life is still a little confusing. When did he have time to also play Division I college football at 2 different universities?
That was all before the war.
And run I know, but it's still like a lot to fit and run a gas station for 3 years and work for the Lowell Light and Power Company. Like he must have just been doing a bunch of things.
But that wasn't work because he could leap from pole to pole.
That was just for fun.
I think it was fun.
That story how
he was a squirrel.
From pole to pole. I don't know. I'm just like finding out more and more things that he did all before the war. I'm like, well, there wasn't like a ton of time in his life before the war. Oh, we forgot about being a traveling musician.
Oh yeah.
And Yeah, that's
You
right.
got to remember he was young. You know, you look back at what we did when we were.
Yeah, but I don't feel like I did
19,
half
20
those
years
things before I was 25. Like, that's insane. Like, that's like several different careers, and I don't know. This letter also hints that Margaret and baby Murda are in Canada right now,
think so.
probably staying with her parents, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I never thought to look up where St. Hilaire is. Is it like way north, or is it by? I don't have to look that up.
No, it's.
It just occurred to me just now. I haven't actually looked at the map.
If I remember right, when I did some digging, it was kind of towards Toronto. Not very far. I don't think it's a very far drive. It's like going to, Toronto.
Yeah, like
I think
just
it's
across the
between
border?
Toronto
Okay.
and leaving the border of Michigan,
All
right
right.
in that area.
Well, but then she might want to rent Anne Roth's house in Lowell. Do we know who that is?
No.
Or where that would even be? Okay. Because now I'm got me curious now.
No, I don't know either. No.
Okay. Well, we got a little more Lowell geography coming up here in a minute because we need to talk more about Burns' business. So this next letter we have gives us a little bit more detail on that. So it's from September 4th, 1945, in his own words.
Tuesday. Dear Mom and Dad, well, that long, long weekend is over, and I'm sure glad of it. The weekends are long enough when there's only 2 days, but when the holiday comes along on Monday, sure makes them seem like forever before it's over. I tried to get a trip for the week so that I wouldn't be just sitting around here, but there weren't any ships going out, so I had to sweat it out here. After church on Sunday, I went downtown to eat breakfast and then came back to the room to read the funny papers. Because this is so close to town where it never seems to be many fellows to do anything with, most of the men on this field are from Dallas, so that they live at home and they don't have to look around for entertainment. When in Kingman, before I came down here, there were a couple of fellows that I went around with who were in the same boat as I was, but here it's different. I haven't been out with anybody over 5 times in the last 3 months that I've been on the field. I called Marg yesterday, and for a wonder, they were able to get an open line up there. She seems to be getting along just swell and says that Marta is getting cuter and bigger every day. Gee, I'm lonesome for that little bugger. I'll be glad to change her pants as soon as I'm with her again. I'm anxious for Bern to write me so that I can get all the dope on what he's expecting to do. I'd like to know just what he would do toward getting the business started, and then I'd also have to brush up on electric ranges and refrigerators so that I could work on them. I know that he spoke of going to a refrigerator school for a couple of weeks so that he'd know his stuff, and so maybe I could do the same. Has Harvey done any more about the building? If we go into this together, we should get started just as soon as possible so that we can get in on the first big rush of buying that there is going to be as soon as the companies are set to deliver. Also, there's the whole angle of getting set up what lines we're going to carry. I mean, that's why I'd like to have him write to me so that we could just see how far he's gone toward getting the thing started. So, you're going to sell the house. From all the angles, I think that's a good idea because the land should be as valuable now as it ever will be. Of course, here's another thought, the one that is a bit far-fetched, I'm afraid. We could wreck it and put up a building for the business. Probably from a business point of view, it wouldn't be too good as it wouldn't be on Main Street. Still, there would be more parking space, and also we would be in time to be able to own the building and property along the business. Of course, this is only an idea, and I imagine that there are a lot of things wrong with it. The location, however, wouldn't be so bad for a business, especially if they're going to build more on that corner. I think that Raj and Veda wouldn't like it if there was going to be all those business establishments around the corner. The house up by the park would surely make a lot better home for them. And just how much do you think it would take to build a store out of the cement blocks and put up a glass brick finish on the front? If the back is there, I suppose it could be done. Well, this is all a lot of thinking, but before you sell the house down there, make sure that the land isn't going to increase in value due to all the new buildings you're speaking of. I'll sure be glad to get down there, and I'll be able to do some planning firsthand instead of by letter. Tell Bern to drop me a line. Your loving and grateful son, Bruce.
Ooh, okay, there's a lot here about some Lowell Main Street history here. So it appears that Bern is starting an appliance business, right? They're talking about refrigerators, stuff like that, going to refrigerator school, and maybe he does want Bruce to go in on it with him. It appears that Bruce is really thinking about this. He's got plans. He's like, well, what have you done so far? He's trying to figure this out. So they're talking about selling the house on Hudson Street, right? Like that Frank and Lotta were living in during the war, which I think we determined was actually belonged to Lotta's mom or something a while ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
So they're going to sell that house, and Bruce is saying he wants to put his business there because of all the new buildings going up on this corner. So that's the corner. That's what we were talking about, where the museum actually is now, and the gas station.
Across the street, right?
I think you're talking about that corner area, whether it was on the west side or the east side of Hudson.
Yeah, I have mixed. Maybe Marty would know
West
the answer
side,
to
I
that.
think.
On the west side,
I'm
like where
thinking.
BP is. I mean, where the
Or New Union, like on that, like across the
no,
southwest side?
not that far. No, not
Okay.
that far. And then I thought it was down from the museum towards the other block, but I could be wrong too.
All right.
Oh, past the Strand Theater?
No, museum, and then heading north.
Oh,
on
behind
Hudson.
it, where the,
on Hudson.
okay.
On
behind
Hudson.
it.
So,
Interesting.
but I,
It's just funny. He talks about like they're going to be putting some new stuff up there, and he's like, Raj and Veda aren't going to like all these businesses popping up on this corner, which is of course like the main corner.
It's
like
a busy
of
corner.
where- yeah. Now it is the one and only stoplight for a long time.
yeah, absolutely.
Long
But
time.
now here they're talking about all this development popping up. That's just really interesting. And they're going to move. So Raj and Veda is talking about they should move up by the park. Are they talking about like Richards Park, like further north that way? Because that's where they ended up living,
Check on the
right?
hill. No,
Or Veda ended up living by Richards Park, or
Let's
no?
see, Roger was right across from Richards Park.
Yeah, I think
And then
that's what they're
Byrne
talking
was up the next block.
Yep. Burn. Yep.
Oh, okay.
where Mark Ritzman
Was it Roger and Veda, kind of where Mrs. Earhart lived? Were they
No, it was just
Just
down
north
from,
of the Rothgurst, right?
Yes,
north
it's
of the
north of
Rothgurst. It's open now.
It was a
Oh,
big,
that's
it was
Roger.
a big,
Yeah, Roger.
big green
I meant
two-story
Byrne.
for a long
I
time.
meant to say Byrne. Wasn't he kind of where Amelia or
Byrne?
Earhart's, Mrs. Earhart's house is on the corner there?
Byrne,
Right next to the.
Byrne lives where Mark Ritzma lives.
Oh,
In that.
okay, that's right.
Where the
All right.
clears. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. That's
It's
interesting.
all over in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming then Frank and Lotta are living in Reservoir Hill. Maybe they're selling this Hudson Street house, or they have two houses.
Yeah, I wondered about
So
that
I think they
myself.
do. I think they must.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll eventually figure out where everybody lives before this podcast is over. But our final letter today is from September 15th, 1945, and Bruce is clearly ready to go home, in his own words.
Saturday night. Dear Mom and Dad, just came back from a movie, and gosh, am I sort of lonesome. Guess maybe because everybody seems to be doing things on Saturday night. It's times like these that I'd like to think that soon I'll be able to sit down and talk to you without ever having to worry about going away again. Those days are so near that I shouldn't be too low tonight, but I am. Guess I'm just getting impatient. The weather down here has changed quite a bit since yesterday. It's actually chilly down here tonight. I think that hurricane that is raging down in Florida has caused the extreme change. How are things with Byrne and his new job? Gosh, with Paul gone too from the LL&P, it leaves not very many linemen around, does it? Well, Dad, don't you go fooling around with climbers on. Flying maybe is okay, but that exertion of trying to keep things going at LL&P is bad, and I sure hope you don't let it get you to overdo. Gee, Mother, it's sure swell that you could get out to play cards. But the same goes for you. Take it easy. Everything will be all right just as soon as your two absent sons return to you. Then you can breathe a sigh of relief, a 3.5-year sigh, and settle down to take care of yourself and not worry about Raj and I. The latest dope on my discharge is that I'm waiting for a separation date from Fort Sheridan, Chicago. That means I should be hearing sometime this next week. As soon as I know the date, I'll call you because you can figure I'll be home the next day from that date. It's now only taking about 8 hours for a man to go through the center. Tomorrow after Mass, I've got some work in the office. Due to new ATC regulations, we have to change our service account. That means the books we keep on our phone calls, their payments, charges, etc. That really isn't my department. It's Signal. But still, I offer to help out. I'm glad to have something to do on Sunday, because otherwise it's just a long day. I'll try to call you sometime tomorrow and get over some of this lonesomeness by hearing your voices. I love you all, with all my heart, and Mom and Dad. God bless you for me. Your loving and always grateful son, Bruce.
No, I could just feel how impatient he is. He's so ready to be done.
Yeah. Salutations are getting longer.
I know, the war is over. He's like, get me home.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you wait so long, and then like right at the end, it's getting worse. Like you'd
Yeah,
think it would be the opposite, but it's like, no, just get me out of here. But
Yeah,
poor
yeah.
thing. I'm confused about this burn in his new job. So what is going on here?
So maybe he didn't start the
maybe he
business?
didn't start the business, or he
Just a
did
new
start the
job?
business, but without deciding not to
We
go
gotta
in
talk
on
to
it with
Burns
Bruce.
Fam. We gotta talk to
gosh, I need
Pat.
to get with
We gotta
Pat.
hold up with Pat.
Yeah. We do know there's
Or
been
Judy.
there's an appliance business. I've been looking at the ledgers. There's McMahon Appliances, but I don't know. I mean,
I
that's
think
obviously burn.
Gail probably knows too. We need to give her. I have her number. So.
Oh, well, that's it for us today. Thank you for listening to Letters Home. We hope you continue to listen as we come near the end of Bruce's story. We finished the war today, so we're going to finish the letters in our next episode. That's all. We'll have all the letters that we have so far anyway. Unless we find more in Aunt Lori's house.
All we'll have to do is go through the separation center and we'll be released.
Yeah, I don't know if he gets that far.
Discharged.
But then we'll do like a wrap-up episode to kind of finish things up. So we'll have two more episodes. We are going to take a quick 1-week break, though, and then we'll be back for our final 2 episodes at that point, our final 1 episode. So we'll get a little space in there. So the Lowell Historical Museum has digitized versions of Bruce's letters so you can read them in full, along with primary sources for most of the people, places, and events we've talked about here today, plus more. You can also follow the Lowell Historical Museum on Facebook and the Letters Home podcast on Instagram at Letters Home Lowell. Thank you to Roger McNaughton for our podcast music and to Lowell Radio for letting us record in their studio at Lowell High School every week. Stream it at lowellradio.org. See you next time.